We really started the year just kind of getting to know each other, as you could well imagine. So in September, I came in as interim and spent most of that time just in September getting a sense of where they are as a staff, what their interests were, what the goals of the district were at that point in time. And we moved right into the superintendent's conference stage that first week in October. And during that time period, one of the goals of that day was for us to be able to have an opportunity to look at the 5-year goal for the professional learning communities and our RTI, our response to intervention. And so that gave us, as a staff at Sutherland, a good opportunity with my administrative team to be able to just dive in, take a look at the goals, decide from the goal statement that was a draft that we were reviewing, where would Sutherland fit in that and what should we do next? So as a result, we went to our ILT after that day and identified 2 areas we wanted to really particularly pay attention to. And obviously one was to look at where we were as a school in the professional learning community, to see where we were in the process of growing and developing relationships and moving towards really active, effective groups. And also to take a look social and emotionally at where we were as a district. So we went through that and defined that in terms of a professional learning community, at the end of the year, we wanted each one of the groups to have an opportunity to be somewhere and moving somewhere on a continuum, because one of the things that was evident as a district, as well as our school, everybody was kind of at a little different place in terms of where they were. So we found some, I would say some really good tools to use to be able to assess where we would be. And what I did then is, with the ILT, we talked about having our professional learning communities look at where they are and try to make a movement to the next stage or next level. So I asked that they do one of these next few things, that their experience at the end of this year allowed them to either focus on a content or a topic that would improve student learning, that they would be able at some point to share knowledge about standards together and instructional adjustments, ways they approach learning for kids, that they would have maybe some experience with a common criteria to assess work, and again, I'm going to say these are ors, or that they would be able to develop a plan for kids who either already had the information or were struggling to get the information, so that if they could just have some deep, meaningful conversation over the year in one of these, and maybe more, then I knew we'd be able to be moving PLCs. So in February, I did a little check-in to see where they were, and I'm pleased to tell you at that point in time, we had 29 operating professional learning communities. Now, we had really more than that, but in terms of using the time that I had identified, which this year we chose to use our staff meeting time, so that there would be some identified time I could give back to them outside of their usual time planning together or working. So in reviewing the reports I got from those 29, I found that there were people operating in professional learning communities beyond the 29 that had been established. So there's more of that kind of working together, sharing, looking at standards, trying to decide how to look at common assessments and respond to kids' learning. But 29 that actively worked during the time that we've identified for as professional standards or professional learning time through staff meetings. This year we were also lucky enough to be able to, for several of those meetings, have the same time as Mendon High School. So that also enriched the opportunity for our 2 schools to work together. So small departments, for example, or teachers who are working in the same content area across the buildings were able to work. And I'm going to kind of step back to say, we started to kind of look at how we could put Sutherland and Mendon together in more ways than that. We actually started the year, that professional, the superintendent's conference day, we spent the day together learning about students of strength, or sources of strength, which you're going to find out a little bit later is one of the things we've moved into, and then stayed with that first day of being able to work as professional learning communities with Mendon staff as well when it was appropriate. So I guess I want to say how powerful I felt that beginning time was, and that people then who were teaming used that time throughout the rest of the year. So there was evidence of growth as a result of reading the reports in February that indeed our professional communities have been growing, have been moving forward along that continuum about strengthening and becoming more effective as teams. The one thing that also comes out is and it's not a commercial, but the importance of having protected, identified time they can meet. We made a decision not to come together at all as a staff when it was a staff day that I was devoting to professional learning communities, so that they wouldn't lose 1 second. And I was so appreciative of that. Then on top of it, we had opportunities at the last, for example, the March Superintendent's Conference Day, for them to have a long block to work. And again, the feedback was just that opportunity to be uninterrupted, protected time, and more than just 40 minutes, so that they could really get into some in-depth stuff. When we started out the year in terms of identifying our goals, we knew we would want to be doing some assessment. And the assessment tools that we've decided to use were twofold. We wanted to do a look at where we were in kind of a gross big way. And that's done by the ILT. So they're going to fill out, and already have, they started in the fall filling out where they thought they were and their members of their department were in terms of the stages of professional learning. Were they just at the very beginning stages where they were still figuring out why they were meeting, or were they planning, or were they developing common assessments, or were they talking about kids and how to help become more effective in the classroom with individual students? We did that by identifying with dots the stages we're at. In May, those ILT members will come in again, have that same 7 stages in front of them, and determine where they are at this point, so we can see if there's been identified growth in terms of that gross look. As far as the professional learning communities themselves, they have a more detailed rubric, and they're going to, as a team, fill out one of those rubrics and then return that to their department leaders, who will have a chance to review it to know where their individual team members are, and then that will all come to me, be able to get a report back to the ILT in terms of the total movement and where are we really in terms of professional growth. I wanted to do that because in both cases, both the 7 stages and that more detailed rubric that will be filled out by the teams, it provides a learning opportunity to get a chance to really think about what are the next steps. Not just where are we now, but what do we have to do to move forward. And I think the collaboration of being able to make a decision about movement on that rubric will help them think about the next phase they need to go to. The next area the second goal that we identified for ourselves, I'm going to tell you right now, was pretty lofty. And I see that now as I move into May and June. I also see it now as I recognize we have 60 different activities, not counting the major sports teams or anything else. But originally, as we looked at it, we wanted to get a read on where we were socially and emotionally with our kids. And so we thought that by the end of this school year, we could possibly have an opportunity to get our kids to assess, based on the activities they're in, what's been effective in helping them become better able to handle their emotions, better able to demonstrate caring for each other. I mean, really good stuff in terms of your social emotional growth. How do they make healthy choices, and some of the things and activities they were engaged with in school help them do that? How were they behaving responsibly as a result of those interactions with peers? And how could they develop and maintain positive relationships, again, because they've had those opportunities in school? Very lofty, still very excited about it, and I still am right now, but I'm going to tell you straight out, we are not reaching this goal. We got pretty far along the way, but there is no way in terms of May and June that with an assessment tool, any kid who's taking APs or Regents tests or anything else is going to have time to fill out any Survey Monkey about anything. So I've learned my lesson that May and June is a really tough time to do any kind of surveying, and in the future, if I'm ever in this position, I want you to know
that's not nice.
I will, in February, make sure this comes out. But the good news about it really is our kids have some incredible opportunities. There's clubs, from art clubs to yoga. There are performing groups that they're a part of, whether it's drama or music. There's intramurals. There's sports. They have such a richness. And many of those clubs, of the 60, the kids themselves identified. There's probably been no other pleasure than watching a kid walk in my office with that little form in his or her hand and saying to me, I'm really thinking about getting together a bunch of kids to do this. And it's been a wide range, and the excitement of being able to push some of those through so they're able to either have an opportunity with archery or get a chance to be able to have a self-defense club, which I have to tell you, twice I've tried to change the name of it. But it doesn't matter. And the kids are enjoying it. So some of our energy ended up being spent in terms of the social-emotional realm developing newer opportunities instead of assessing the old. So we had 4 basically new initiatives the kids were invited to be a part of this year. One was Best Buddies, that opportunity to be supportive of students with developmental needs. The second is the Sources of Strength, which is our program with the University of Rochester that helps, and it's in Sutherland's case, it's a large variety of kids recognize the strengths within themselves and help kids and peers recognize the strengths that they have as well, so that when they get through tough times, they begin to recognize that they have an internal wealth of personal fortitude and strength that can get them through just about anything. We have a number of kids in Rock to Change, which is dealing with diversity and racial communication and communication and opportunities to dialogue. And finally, Rock to Connect, which is also helping our older kids, helping city school, charter city school, mentoring their junior high kids. So 4 really neat opportunities that allowed our kids to grow and change. In the course of this, while we won't have an assessment, there are 2 nice tools available if this ever moves forward in the future. Sutherland has done a climate survey, which could be a good model for how to survey our students in terms of their ability to grow or change as a result of their interactions in clubs and activities. And Anchorage School in Alaska has done some awesome SEL work. And as a result of some of their work, it makes it very easy to look forward to how you can begin to assess student growth in terms of interpersonal work, their self-awareness, their ability to interact with others. They've done some excellent baseline work that I think would make, which is why I was so excited initially about us being able to do this. I had not seen that quality of work when I was working here before, and I thought, Anchorage has really got it. This will be able to be moved forward. But we ran out of time. So work in progress for SEL, but some good baseline tools for people to use. Second semester, we decided we were going to continue the work that you've just heard about, obviously, but there were 2 other areas that needed attention. The first one was the preparation for a new administrator, and the second was to examine our grading practices. In preparing for the new administration that's going to be coming to Sutherland, we spent the morning of the Superintendent's Conference Day in March doing primarily 3 things. Sutherland staff came together, and the first thing they did was recognize the amount of change they had been through over the last 15 years. And begin to recognize who's been a part of that change and who hasn't. So one of the first activities we did was ask individuals who only knew the Sutherland building as it looks right now to stand up. And it was almost half the staff. And they sat down, and that was kind of an aha. And then from that point on, they worked in small groups for a period of time, identifying all the things that have changed, Sutherland things, and in their profession. Just think about what's happened in education over the last 15 years. So after doing that, we decided to talk about what that impact would have on individuals and on an organization. So we looked at some systems organization in terms of change. And then finally, we talked about how do you move forward now? Recognizing that systems are greatly impacted by change, and recognizing that Sutherland is a really healthy organization and system. What do we have to do to move forward to get ready for a new administrator? And as a result of that day, I believe the staff really did an awesome job of recognizing how each individual has a responsibility for moving forward in terms of the recognition and the support of the next individual who comes at the principal's helm. In terms of examining grading practices, we're in the midst of that right now. The district grading philosophy was reviewed again, and it was not the first time it was done at Sutherland, but they did it with me at an ILT meeting. Then we heard a presentation at the April staff meeting with Melanie Ward presenting the secondary grading survey results. And then today we've begun talking about the expectations and the tough dialogue that departments have to do to align with the grading philosophy. So that, again, is a work in progress. Well, all those things have been going on this year. We've also done two things that we examined our practices and made a couple of changes. And one has to do with response to intervention, so that this year, instead of just identifying a list of kids that we would like to review in terms of academic eligibility, we decided to make a look at all our kids at the 5, the 15, the 25th, and the 35th week, so that every student gets reviewed and gets some kind of comment as a part of an interim to make sure that we're truly looking at that model of RTI. And then finally, Sutherland's always had, and I think it's, as I understand, been at the foreground of an academic honesty policy. We did two things with that policy this year. We expanded it to go beyond plagiarism, so that the opportunity to talk with kids in the beginning of the year, which is something Sutherland's done for a long time, opened it up to not just looking at plagiarism, which we do as a teaching tool, but by the time you get to high school, making sure kids are very clear about what that looks like and how to avoid it. But we also expanded it beyond that to look at other issues of academic honesty. And then we spent a great deal of time talking about the consequence, what would really help kids grow. We're a training ground at this point in time in kids' lives, and what do we do to help them understand the importance of academic honesty and how to move forward. And the second thing we did with academic honesty we expanded it, and the second thing was that it's changing the consequences and the choices. I've said a lot of I's probably in this, but it's mostly been we's. And I guess I want you to know that up front, that I'm really appreciative of the entire Sutherland community. The kids have been welcoming. I have an incredible team. One of them is here, Jennifer Barron. And I want to tell you that Eileen Scoville really wanted to be here, but had a really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we told her to go take advantage of. Tina Carpenter, who's my administrative assistant, and just the staff. It's been an incredible year, and we really hope and have worked hard to make sure that the building has by no means stood still, but at the same time has moved forward to be poised for new administration, which you'll be instrumental in making happen very soon, I know. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to be with you tonight, and if there's any questions or comments, I'm open to it.
Does anybody have any questions, comments? Thank you, Carole and Jennifer. It's been a great year. We really appreciate you stepping in this year and bringing your expertise and wealth of knowledge and your personality with you. And we've enjoyed having you, and thank you. It was great. We enjoyed our coffee in your building, as we always do, but it's been great to see you back this year, and we appreciate it. And thanks for your report tonight. You've done a lot of great things this year.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
I'd just like to comment publicly that going into this position for Carole or for anyone is a daunting challenge for many reasons. One is that you have a high school that's among the best in the nation, and a lot of people think that, and they're scared of that position because the only way to go often is down when you're number one. And Carole has stepped in and she has really worked tirelessly with everyone to maintain and to bring back and to reinforce all the great qualities that are at Sutherland High School. And personally, I want to thank you for one, agreeing to come on, and the reason we asked you was because of the respect we had for you in your previous job. And two, we want to thank you for continuing another year.
Yeah. Not so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I've grown a lot, and you don't get that opportunity to do that, so I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.